Come on guys, what do you really expect in a sequel to the Blue Blur? Well, you probably want it to be faster, smoother, and just outright better than the original. Now that the training wheels are off, what can Sonic Team do now they have a more clear vision for Sonic? Let's just get straight to the nitty gritty in Sonic 2. With Eggman seemingly not learning his lesson after getting his behind beaten, it's once again up to Sonic to save the world. Now, Sonic 2 starts in Emerald Hill Zone, and honestly, this is a great way to start off the game. It's an improved version of Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1 in a lot of ways. More pathways for exploration, more vibrant colors of the stage, and it really shows you that Sonic Team is here to play. You may notice that there's someone behind Sonic, and no, that isn't his professional stalker, that's his best buddy Tails. He helps you in many ways throughout the game, only by picking up Sonic so he can hover and glide over certain segments, and he can even hit bosses for you. I know he does get a bit of flack from the fan base, but honestly, I love this little guy. He's incredibly helpful and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's not just Tails that's new though. Another great quality of life feature in Sonic 2 is the fact that all zones are now 2 stages instead of 3. This greatly increases the pace of the game and fixes a lot of the issues I had with Sonic 1's pacing and the fact that the zones felt they dragged on a little bit too much. So far, I am just really enjoying these new changes to Sonic 2 and I think Emerald Hill Zone is a great first stomping ground for you to stretch your little needle points. Eggman here is also very easy with no aerial combat required. He is driving at a respectable speed across the screen. You bonk him on the head and he's toast. Emerald Hill is a nice simple introductory zone that does its job. First impressions are important and this stage sets up some high expectations for the rest of the game. I'm going to put Emerald Hill Zone into high B tier, above Green Hill. Chemical Plant Zone is up next. This stage is a really great contrast of colors compared to Emerald Hill, and damn, the music is amazing. While there is some slow platforming segments, there's so much go on this stage with the dozens of loops and these tunnel segments that are very satisfying to do that I do forgive the slow platforming. Because you're spending so much time zooming around, you'll also be collecting a lot of rings very fast. Which brings me to another really great point and quality of life feature about Sonic 2, the way you get the emeralds. In the first game, you had to gather up your rings and keep them to the end of the stage and do these awful janky special stages. But in Sonic 2, as long as you have 50 rings when you reach a checkpoint, you can enter this tunnel minigame above it, which you have a chance to obtain an emerald. I know not a lot of people like these stages, but personally, I really like them. And while they are a little bit janky at first, once you learn the ins and outs of the first few emeralds, it's very satisfying to obtain the rest of them when it slowly increases in difficulty. And because there's so many checkpoints per stage, you can end up getting all of the emeralds incredibly early. Like, I'm talking 3 to 5 zones in the game early. I've already got 5 emeralds out of all of them and I'm in zone 2. I will come back to the emeralds though, but for now, I just want to say the special stages are pretty neat. Back to the main zone though, and I do want to touch upon its underwater segments. Now, I really didn't like Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 1, but Chemical Plant's water segments aren't really that bad because they're more used to punish the player for not paying attention for their surrounding rather than being an integral part of a level. As long as you go fast and do it well, you won't succumb to the dreaded liquid. The boss in Chemical Plant Zone is a little more tricky with pitfalls beneath you if you jump too early or too late onto Eggman. This boss teaches you the importance of spacing, so don't get too cocky. After all this, I'm actually going to put Chemical Plant Zone in A tier. It's fast, got great music, great art, uses water well, and the boss is a little tricky, which I like, plus the music is great. Good stuff so far, Sonic 2. I'm proud of you. Aquatic Ruin is next, and honestly, this stage is kinda mid. While it's got some great variety of color and background, there's not much to do apart from, well, run to the right. I know I said before there should be more parts of Sonic games where you go uninterrupted, but I think the varying levels of high and small bits of exploration and risk make those moments where you can go fast more satisfying, as if they're almost a reward for playing well. With Aquatic Ruin, the pathways that I took in the level at least didn't have much depth, except in the first zone where there was a little bit of loop-de-looping, which was pretty cool. I also did have some annoying enemy placements which I felt were kind of unjust, which I get is still kind of a Sonic thing. The boss was interesting though, we having to climb on these arrows to take a hit at Eggman. Overall, it's not a super offensive stage, but it just doesn't offer much either, but it's better than some stages I've played. I'm gonna put this in high C, but maybe you could get promoted if I feel nice. Casino Night Zone is first of all a very cool premise for a stage. Jumping around and using pinball gimmicks as part of the stage is really cool, but I personally think that this zone wasn't done justice in terms of its pacing. For the past few zones, we've had absolutely blistering speeds, and Casino Night feels like a harsh contrast with its slightly janky pinball placements and slower cube platforming. It is a good stage to rack up rings for lives and finish off your Chaos Emeralds though. The boss of this stage also takes these pinball gimmicks into account where you have to use them in order to get around Eggman and deal damage to him. The fact that Sonic 2 actually has one less zone really helps with pacing, and the fact that Casino Night Zone is only 2, I feel like if it was 3 it would have been a bit too long. It's honestly an okay stage, and I'm just gonna put it in C. Not too offensive. Hilltop Zone. Guys, I gotta tell you, Hilltop Zone has one of the funkiest tracks. In fact, it might be my favorite track in Sonic 2. The synth really complements the backdrops of the clouds really well. The seesaw gimmicks make a return, which adds to the height dynamic of this stage. The sliding platforms, interconnected tunnels, these are all really cool elements and a really nice refresher compared to the slower pace of Casino Night Zone. Since there is a bit more room, I can also test out Supersonic, which is a transformation ability you get upon earning all 7 Chaos Emeralds. All you need is 50 rings and you are good to go. Well, yeah. Okay, don't get me wrong, Supersonic is very cool, he's fast and very satisfying to use, especially in boss fights. You just have to be incredibly careful because it's like going from driving a car to a jet that breaks the sound barrier. Supersonic does eliminate a lot of gimmicks of certain stages though, but on the other hand, zooming through these stages and dodging the gimmicks are almost a fun gameplay element in itself. It's a really great reward for getting all the emeralds and is much better than just an annoyed Eggman raging at the end of the game. Back to the main zone though, the boss for Hilltop Zone is very easy. Pretty much an easier version of Chemical Plant, so I've got no issues here. This zone is a zone I really do love. More exploration, great music, and I think it strikes a good balance between slow and fast gameplay if I'm honest. Stuff it. I'm putting this in A tier. Okay, forgive me, you are not my favorite song anymore, Hilltop. I don't even want to play with you anymore. My new favorite song in Sonic 2 is Mystic Cave. It pulled up with this banger. Mystic Cave Zone has a big, and I mean big, focus on platforming, but it's not slow. You actively take risks, zoom past doors, and do all sorts if you have the knowledge or just the straight up cojones to do so. Supersonic is an amazing use on this stage. The backdrop is vibrant as well. Just everything about this zone is so good. Eggman doesn't stand a chance despite trying to drop rocks on my head. Probably the easiest boss so far, no doubt because of Supersonic. You know what? I'm gonna do it. This stage doesn't need explaining, just play it for yourself. Short, sweet, banging, fun, great soundtrack, S tier. Oil Ocean Zone comes flying straight out of the gate. It takes a lot from Mystic Cave Zone with aggressive platforming due to falling ledges and lots of sliding segments. You also get shot around in these cannons, which can disorientate you a bit. There is also this one slide that I was adamant I had to go up, but I was just being stupid. Honestly, I'm really enjoying the contrast of colors that each zone is bringing. Each zone is so incredibly memorable. I really feel like the pace has been so impeccable for Sonic 2 so far. Every level is so addicting to just play over and over and over, and Oil's Ocean Zone adds to this. The boss of Oil Ocean is slightly more difficult than the others where you have to dodge some bullets and then jump on Eggman and land back on the platform. Overall, really fun stage, great vibrant colors, and just a fun overall time. You've done it again, Sonic 2. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Remember how I said 5 seconds ago Sonic 2 had great pacing? Well, here comes Metropolis Zone to fuck that up. Seriously, what the heck is it with Sonic games and them losing steam near the end? Metropolis Zone is a zone with good multiple winding pathways. The gimmicks that are in these pathways though, not so good. While you wait for this elevator to rise, the level often puts enemies that shoot projectiles in all directions, causing you to fall all the way down, to which you have to walk away and walk back to make sure the NOT respawns. Some of the platforming is cool-ish, but you have these awful bug enemies that just throw their pincers at you, and maybe I'm just bad at the game, but they always hit me and they are just placed at the worst possible points, and they make you lose so much progress. That's the big issue with this stage. Enemy placement and loss of progress. Even the boss of this stage does this, with enemies circling around him, so you can only really attack him at specific windows, which makes the stage feel even more slow compared to the other zones. And because I've been knocked around so much, and I suck, I haven't been able to use Supersonic on this stage, which would have helped a lot. But with the bad enemy placements, slowed down platforming, and slow progression, especially after all the very good stages we've had so far, I feel the need to be pretty harsh to Metropolis Zone. I'm sorry, but you are banished to D tier and are renamed Metrocity. Welcome all to Sky Chase Zone, a zone where you slowly walk on top of a plane and jump on enemies. I guess this is a transition stage to show how Sonic got to the Wing Fortress, but there's not really anything to talk about here. It's just plain old jumping around, but I'd rather play this than Metropolis Zone, and for that, it goes to a low C. Yeah, remember 5 seconds ago how I said Sonic 2 had great pacing? Well, now it's definitely gone with Wing Fortress Zone. This has got to be the worst stage in Sonic 2 history. There is no floor. Yep, that's right, it's completely gone. The entire floor is a pitfall trap. Why did they? Why? If you mess up platforming on a big majority of the map because a lot of it's open-ended, instant death. At one point you have to jump onto these guns that come out, and there's not really a way to know when they are coming out, so more often than not, you'll see the platform and think, oh, I can jump to it, only for it to close on you. I don't even think about using Supersonic on anything but the boss for this stage. If you do, it's bye-bye flying down to the earth. At least Supersonic makes this boss easy, which by the way, is also kind of annoying if you don't have Supersonic. I have no pleasure. You know what? I have immense pleasure in doing this. Banished to the bottom tier. Here we are, the final zone of Sonic 2, Death Egg Zone. Remember how I said Sonic 2 had great pacing? Man, there is so many things wrong with this stage. So this stage consists of not one, but two bosses. Metal Sonic and Eggman in a giant mech. Metal Sonic requires you to hit him on the front of his stupid big head. Anywhere else and it's an instant game over. You get past him, you have to fight Eggman, and he has an incredibly small window despite how massive he is. Oh, but Guaca, why don't you just save some rings for the fight, you numbnuts? Well, you can't. You literally can't. There's no rings on this stage, meaning if you die, you have to repeat both boss fights, and there's no Supersonic. Yeah, you know that really cool Supersonic transformation that you earned by collecting all of the emeralds that would have been peak in a final fight? Yeah, you can't use it. What was the damn point in collecting everything? Why would you do this to me? I'm not even putting this zone into the tier, it doesn't deserve it. Such a disappointment to end on a great game. Sonic 2. Sonic twice. You were so close. I love this game so much. The pacing, the majority of the zones, the introduction of Supersonic, the amazing pixel art, and banging soundtrack. But the absolute flop at the end of this game needs to be studied by generations to come. I still love Sonic 2. Like I said in my Sonic 1 video, the more you play it, the easier it is, and the bad stages kind of dull into an okay. But regardless of that, it still really sucks to see how hard Sonic 2 falls at the finish line. Honestly, if they had just given me 50 rings at the end of the game to use as a reward for getting the emeralds, I would be more forgiving. But I guess all I can do is hope that Sonic 3 will continue to go up as Sonic 2 did. I'd still definitely prefer to play this over Sonic 1 because of how satisfying a lot of the stages are and how much fun the special stages are. And at least the worst zones are only 1-2 acts, so it definitely could have been a lot worse. And yep, that's it for Sonic 2, folks. Fast, fun, a bit flat in parts, but overall, it's good gaming. Even though I complain, I love Sonic 2, and it only takes like an hour to complete. So give it a shot. That's it for me, fellas. I gotta skedaddle. But before I go, I gotta remind you to keep shredding. See ya!